Hey friends, how are you? I hope you're having a great day today. Today we will be creating a night owl watercolor painting project. And I wanted to go over the supplies and the materials that you will need for this project. The first thing that you'll need is a piece of paper. I used watercolor paper here. If you have watercolor paper, go ahead and use that. But if you have a different thick type of paper, that will work as well. You'll also need some water, and I like to use clean and clear water, and you'll also need a paintbrush that is fairly large. You'll need some watercolor paints. I like to use this set because it has a lot of different color options. And then you'll also need either oil pastels or crayons. Either one will work well. You'll also need a handy dandy paper towel for spills. And it's always a good idea to have a mat or something underneath your piece of artwork so that if you spill something or you have a mess, it will not damage or ruin the surface underneath your painting project. So I'm excited about starting our project. Let's get started. Hey friends, how are you? Welcome back to this night owl painting project. We are going to complete step number 1 in this video. So I just wanted to show you the supplies and the materials real quick that we will be using. You can either use oil pastels or you can use crayons for this part of the project. And for the next video, we will be using our watercolor paints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 2 of these colors. I'm going to choose black and white for this particular step. I'm going to use white for the stars, and then I'm going to use black for the actual outline of the owl and the branch and the moon. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is make a curlicue, a spiral at the top, and then we're going to have a curved line, and then we're going to make another spiral. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to take our oil pastel and we're going to push pretty hard, and we're going to make a spiral, and then we're going to make another one, just like that. Now what we're going to do is we are going to make this part the face and the head part of our owl. So these are some feathers that are sticking up, and that's going to be a sideways letter C. Now we're going to make the body of our owl down here, and we're going to make that by making a curved line and another curved line. Now to make our branch, we're going to make a line, and it doesn't have to be straight. Remember, it's a branch that touches this line and this line, and then goes up a little bit at the end. I'll show you why in just a second. We're going to make another line, and then we're going to go down a little bit. Now I thought it would be interesting if this branch right here was separated into 2 smaller branches. So I'm going to make the letter V right here so you can see how this branch starts out and it branches off into 2 smaller branches. Let's make a few leaves. If there's a different way that you like to make leaves, you can go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to make some leaves to add a little bit of detail. And then I'm going to go back up to my owl's face, and I'm going to make some detail in his face, some features. So I'm going to make a backwards letter C and a forwards letter C. And then I'm going to make a nice round and big dot right in the middle. Those are going to be my owl's eyes. I'm going to make a triangle for his bill, and then I'm going to make some wings on the side of his body, and I'm going to make some feet. And for his feet, I'm just going to make 3 curved lines. Now, if you're using oil pastel, sometimes what happens is the oil pastel is really soft, and so it gets used up pretty quickly you might have to peel the paper down. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to peel the paper down. There we go. So I'm going to add a little bit of detail in here inside of the owl's body, and those are going to be some feathers. So let me show you how I make feathers. I just go like this with a series of letters U, and then what I do then is I make another series. Whoops, did you see what just happened? My oil pastel broke. That's a very common thing that happens with oil pastels because they're very soft and they break quite a bit. So don't be surprised and just set that aside, and then you just keep moving along. So you use your series of letter U's going across. Notice where I touched the previous series of letter U going across, I touch it right in the middle. See how I'm doing that? I go right across and I make sure that I touch the previous line right in the middle at the bottom. And then I just keep going down until I make it all the way to the bottom of the owl's body. Almost done. Now, this particular type of a line, sometimes you have to practice it because it can be kind of tricky, but the more that you practice it, the faster you will get. So that's our owl and that's our branch. Let's go up and let's make a moon. I'm going to make my moon right here on the side at the top on the right. So basically it's the letter C, and then you close up with a smaller letter C. Now I'd like to make some stars, and I'm going to use my white oil pastel. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a line, another line, and another line. So 3 lines. And you're not going to be able to see these lines in the video. And the reason why is because I'm using a white oil pastel. White oil pastel on white paper, you can't see. But the good news is that when I apply paint onto the oil pastel will resist the paint and you will be able to see the stars. It's almost like magic. They come out and you'll be able to see them. So let me make one more right there. All right, friends, so that's it for this part of our lesson. The second step will be next, so I will see you in the next video. Hey friends, welcome back to this lesson. So we're going to start painting our night owl. And what you'll need is you'll need some clean water and a paintbrush. And you'll also need some watercolor paints and a handy dandy paper towel. So let's get started. The first thing that I like to do is I like to wake up my paints by putting a little drop of water in each color that I think that I might use. So I'm putting some water in these paints, and it just takes a moment for the paint to soften up, and then it will be ready for us to use. So in the meantime, I'm going to kind of think about what colors I'd like to use on my owl. And I think what I'd like to do is have a purple background because it's going to be the night. I'd like to have a brown branch with my green leaves, and I feel like I'd also like my owl to be green and blue. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with my owl, and I'm going to start with my green paint, and I'm going to start with my owl's face. I want to make sure that I have a lot of water and a lot of paint on my paintbrush because I want my owl to be super, super bright. Now I'm going to start painting his feathers on his body. And notice I'm not just going like this all through his body. I'm taking the time to go one by one, and I'm taking the time to paint each one of his feathers. And you will notice that if you do that and you take the time, you will be much happier with the outcome of your painting. So I think I'm finished with that color. Now I'm going to go a little bit darker. This is a different shade of green, a little bit darker. And I'm just skipping around to my different feathers. And if I see that I have too much water on one of my feathers, I pick it up. I pick up the color and the water with my paintbrush like that, and then I can use it on a different feather. That's a trick that I learned from my art teacher. Now, I think I'm going to add a little bit of blue to my owl, and keep in mind you can use any colors that you want. If you want to use orange and yellow or purple and blue, it's up to you. So I think the rest of my feathers, I'm going to use this blue color. And did you see what I'm doing? I'm picking up some paint, some puddles of paint, and I'm moving that paint around. I think I got all of my feathers perfect. All right, so the next step is I'm going to paint my branch brown. So I'm going to move that paint around. I'm going right over those feet because the feet have oil pastel on them and they're going to resist that color. Finished with that. Now I'm going to go back to my leaves and paint my leaves green, just like this. Is it important that you stay in the lines? Nope. If you don't want to stay in the lines, you don't have to stay in the lines. All right. Notice that I left this part of my owl's eyes white. I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave them white because I just like how that looks when the eyes stick out after there's a bunch of color on the piece of paper. But you can paint your eye area a different color like yellow or red or orange, any color that you'd like. Now I'm going to start painting my sky, and I want you to notice when I'm painting my sky, the areas where I put my oil pastel for the stars, they will pop out, they will resist that paint. So let me find the purple that I want. Let's see how this one looks. Ooh, that looks cool. So I want a lot of paint and a lot of water on there. I go right over that big feather of my owl, move that paint around, and if you'd like to mix colors, that's a-okay. You can do that. You can mix colors. I might switch to a blue in a moment, but for right now, I'm really loving this color, purple, for the night sky. Going to go down here. There we go. And I'm going to speed up this video. So I'll see you back here in a minute. Alrighty friends, I'm back and I'm really happy with the way that my night owl turned out. I used a combination of purple paint and blue paint, a dark blue paint for my sky, and I really like the way that it looks. As you can see, we have our stars here that have popped out with the application of our dark purple and our dark blue. So I'm really happy with that. I do want to mention that once you go over one time on your oil pastel, if you go over and over and over like this, what will happen is you won't be able to see the oil pastel coming through as much. So when you're going over oil pastel and you want this type of look, only go over it once, maybe 2 times, and that's it. Because if you don't do that, it will lose its effect of resisting the watercolor paint. Alrighty friends, I hope that you enjoyed this lesson and I'll see you next time.